hear me? All right, welcome. We're going to watch some news tonight from Poland, TVP World. This is their headline news show. Last time we watched their special segment, Break the Fake, which is TPT's attempt at exposing disinformation. Tonight we're just going to watch some headlines, get you caught up. This broadcast is from the 10th of July, 2026. A couple days behind here, but just to give you an idea of what it looks like here in my world. All right. This is, once again, TVT World. TVP is the state-run media outlet. And this is your host, Aaron Diamond. Decidedly un-Polish name, but whatever.
Good evening. You're watching World News Tonight on TVP World. I'm Aaron Diamond. Reports tonight from Volodymyr Zelensky that China told the Kremlin not to use nuclear weapons on Ukrainian soil. But we begin tonight with allegations the so-called no-limits friendship between Russia and China has long played a direct hand in the Kremlin's war in Ukraine. Leaked documents reveal leaders hashing out a plan to disable Starlink and partnering on air and missile defense. The Ukrainians rely on Starlink to give them information that the Russians don't have. So China's efforts, along with Russia, to disable that, I guess that's a new development. Systems, with Volodymyr Zelensky now saying China has reportedly warned its neighbour not to use nuclear weapons on Ukrainian territory. Piotr Mischuk reports.
I think you heard such voices in Russian media. What if we respond to Ukrainian strikes with nuclear weapons? And it seems to me that this was the first time China directly responded in an ultimatum-like form.
Vladimir Putin apparently was musing to President Xi about maybe I'll use a nuclear weapon or two, and Xi said no.
Be no thought whatsoever of using nuclear weapons.
The Ukrainian head of state said he found out about the Chinese ultimatum from European leaders during the recent NATO summit in Ankara, and though Putin has not issued direct nuclear warnings against Ukraine despite recent trouble with Ukrainian strikes deep into Russian territory, nuclear weapons remain Russia used as a testing ground, experts say.
The territory of Ukraine, which is becoming a testing ground for Russia's warfare, may also be used to put these AI technologies into practice and test them on the battlefield.
But the most worrying part about the findings is the Russian-Chinese cooperation aimed at destroying or hacking into Starlink's orbital internet relay satellites used for communication purposes by Ukrainian soldiers on the front line.
Much of the gains that Ukraine is making on the battlefield these days are somewhat linked to Starlink being available for them and not available for Russia.
I've got an update on Ukraine here. Same poop, different scoop.
Moving to Ukraine now, where the country's army commander-in-chief says the pace of Russia's advance has slowed by more than half in the year so far. Alexander Sersky has also revealed Moscow is facing monthly losses of about 32,000 people killed and wounded on the front line.
That's 32,000 killed or wounded monthly now. That's Russian losses.
Let's go straight to the Ukrainian capital now, where our correspondent Oz Chatterjee is standing by. Good evening to you, Oz. So is Russia in real trouble here?
Well, look, this was the statement released by the Commander-in-Chief Alexander Sersky this morning on Friday, giving a list of statements. Now, these are kind of facts that the Commander-in-Chief often relays to the people. Among those that he stated on Friday were that Russian advances, the pace of those advances had slowed over the first 6 months of the year, that they had been launching offensives over 13 different fronts. That's now down to 7 fronts, and Ukraine, of course, has been having huge success with its long-range attacks. Now, a word of caution on.
Yeah, so the Russians keep making these little incursions. They keep getting beat back. Ukraine is prevailing and even starting to gain ground. And then on to so the former Ukrainian president Porohshenko returned to Ukraine to see if the Supreme Court would overturn the sanctions against him. Oz is going to give us another update on that.
Oz, while I have you, we're just hearing about a major development
While I have you.
in a Supreme Court case involving former Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko. What more can you tell us?
Yep, still corrupt.
Well, this court case was brought forward by the former President Petro Poroshenko in response to sanctions put on Poroshenko by President Zelensky and his government. So this was a court case put forward to the Supreme Court to try and overturn those sanctions. The Supreme Court has now ruled against Poroshenko, so the sanctions enforced by Zelensky will remain in place. Now, former President Poroshenko's defense team say that these sanctions and this decision are illegal and unfounded, and they plan to appeal the decision.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Nope, still corrupt. Sorry. Now, there's this thing with Ukraine just named one of their military units after a nationalistic branch of the Ukrainian army during the Second World War, and there was a big massacre by this regiment on Polish people. There was something called the Volhynia massacre, and there's some bad blood between Poland and Ukraine over that still. Apparently, it was pretty bad. And President Zelensky just named one of their military units after this regiment in World War II responsible for the massacre. So Poland is a little pissed. Now they're still working together because they know Russia is the bigger enemy, but people are wondering why Zelensky would do this. So recently, apparently, some victims were just identified.
Victims of a World War II massacre in modern-day Ukraine have been clearly identified for the first time in the same week as the killing's annual anniversary. It comes as Kyiv and Warsaw are locked in a fierce feud over the naming of a Ukrainian military unit after the country's insurgent army responsible for the 1940s Volhynia massacre. Chief Poland correspondent Kazimierz Swisek reports.
Yeah, so this is it's a coincidence that these victims were just identified for the first time ever. I wonder why this is happening now. This just smacks of Russian disinformation. Russia's trying to stir the pot, like I said, muddy the waters any way they can.
The Volhynia massacre was a series of pogroms committed on Polish civilians in the 1940s by Ukrainian nationalists from UPA, the Ukrainian Insurgent Army.
And its parent organization, the OUN, the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists, to either kill, slaughter, or eradicate, chase out any vestige of Polish identity, of Poles.
Now this detail is being brought up all of a sudden to kind of drive a wedge between Ukraine and Poland. The right-wing ruling party in Poland right now is expressing their discontent over this naming of the military unit. Oh, so Pfizer is apparently
Imagine being able to build an app with your
Air navigation body is caught in the middle of a costly standoff between Warsaw.
So the Poland's air navigation body, I don't know what that means, and I don't know why they're caught in the middle of Pfizer's COVID vaccines and the Polish government.
Pharma giant Pfizer.
The farmer giants. So I actually went to the transcripts to see if I could get a better text. It's the same text. They just pulled the subtitles from the transcript, and it literally says Farmer Giant Pfizer, spelled like FIFA.
National agency says 80% of its funding is being held back amid a legal battle over COVID-19 vaccines ordered through the European Union 5 years ago. As Kamil Rozański reports, the jabs were never accepted or paid for by the previous right-wing Polish government.
I don't know, whatever. So we just got done with the NATO meeting in Ankara. Erdogan had some interesting parting gifts for the guests. Let's see what happened.
NATO leaders are returning from Ankara to their home countries with a rather unusual leaving gift. That's because Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has seemingly changed things up this week.
I've never seen his first name. I've never heard his first name pronounced. Obviously, they butchered it in the subtitles.
Adding an engraved revolver and live ammunition to the luggage of departing delegations. Andrew.
I wonder if the NRA had anything to do with this.
And while Erdogan distributed gifts, he received one himself. News that US sanctions for purchasing Russian S-400 missile systems would be cancelled. The decision getting a thumbs up from the president.
So yeah, Trump cancelled the sanctions and he got a gun. Nice. So here's his reaction to the China-Russia meeting.
That was exactly going to be my next question, because does Donald Trump really care about peace in Ukraine, or do those long-range strikes into Russian territory have something to do with that change of tone? Because he's the guy that just wants to back a winner. And does that mean he could turn back towards Vladimir Putin just as fast?
I think he could, depending on the circumstances. I think it's very important to remember the hierarchy of priorities that Trump has when it comes to this war. I genuinely believe the president wants to resolve the war. I think he wants peace. But I think his primary motivating factor is, as I said earlier, it's to get back to business with Russia. It's both for the United States as a country to do deals with Russia, but it's also for him and his family and his cronies to personally benefit from investments, say, in Arctic gas and oil, in other critical minerals in Siberia and other parts of Russia. And so I think he sees the relationship through the commercial lens, and ending the war is a means to unlocking some of those business deals.
Of course.
That does not mean that he's willing to put the type of pressure, especially economically, on Putin that would be necessary for hastening an end to this conflict, say, in the next few months. I do not believe that President Trump is prepared to do that, even as he slowly shifts his tone about the war.
Yeah, well. All right, guys, so that's is the news for you tonight. We will see you next time. See you on the flip side. And take care, everybody.